Welcome to the Popcorn Counter here at the Two Reel Cinema Club. I'm James Ruzicka.
And I am Andres Lorente.
And as you know, we are sometimes asked to contribute our thoughts about programming here at the Two Reel Cinema Club. So I've got a little conundrum for you. Imagine that I have tickets for two different film festivals, which we have programmed, but you can only go to one. I'm going to force you to choose. You can either go to a film festival happening next week, which will show all of the films made by Paul Thomas Anderson. Ooh. Or you can wait a week and you can go to a different film festival in 2 weeks' time, which will be showing all of the films by the Coen brothers. Which are you going to pick?
I would say see you next week.
Now, I already don't know which one you've chosen.
Oh, really? Oh.
What does that mean? So is that this coming week or is that next week? I remember writing a pitch for a script once, which was all about somebody not understanding when they were told "see you next week." Whether that is that like the following week or is that this coming week? Which one is it?
Oh.
So I don't understand your answer, I'm afraid.
I thought the way you pitched it was Paul Thomas Anderson was this week.
Yes.
Or I would wait a week to see the Coen brothers. So I would wait a week to see the Coen brothers.
Now, I must warn you, the Coen brothers festival does contain 18 films.
Oh.
Whereas Paul Thomas Anderson's film festival only contains 10.
Oh, they're showing all of them. They're full retrospectives.
They're showing all of them. Do you change your mind?
No.
Okay.
I think I know what you're getting at, though. But are they showing all of Paul Thomas Anderson's music videos?
Oh, okay, yeah. He did that thing with Tom York, didn't he? And that thing was, is it his wife or no? Who?
He dated Fiona Apple, and he's done a lot of her videos even since they've broken up, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's some folks he's done a number of videos for.
And he's associated with the Haim sisters as well, isn't he?
Yeah. Okay. There you go. He's done a lot of their the Haim videos. Yep.
Okay. So maybe there will be an evening of videos for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Could be a lot. So in terms of like total production, obviously the Coens are probably 10, if not 15 years older, maybe even a bit more than that.
Yep.
So they've made more films. He's made, what did you say? It was 10
feature films.
Versus 18?
Yep. So if you start with Hard Eight in 96. Yep. So I think his first film of any substance was a short film called The Dirk Diggler Story.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like half an hour long. You can watch it on YouTube. It's still around. I think filmed on to videotape when that became Boogie Nights. But he started out with Hard Eight. Yep. So I'll quickly read out his filmography because I've written it out in the program here. Hard Eight, then Boogie Nights, then Magnolia, then Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, that's a film for the pod, The Master, Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza, and then this year's One Battle After Another. I think that's a pretty outstanding roster, actually. Not all of them are fantastic, but a lot of good work there.
There is some good work there. And remember when we talked to Michael Primer, he was on hand for Prairie Home Companion. He was the backup director.
He was. Yeah, I wonder if he should get half a point for that. You're right. Yep.
I think so.
Whereas the Coen brothers, okay, I'm going to read out there. So tell me if you think this is tell me if you think this is a more consistent filmography.
Yeah.
So going back to 1984, so their first film, 12 years before Paul Thomas Anderson made a feature. They started out with Blood Simple, then Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, The Hudsucker Proxy, Fargo, Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, The Man Who Wasn't There, Intolerable Cruelty, The Lady Killers, No Country for Old Men, Burn After Reading, A Serious Man, True Grit, Inside Llewellyn Davis, Hail Caesar, and then The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, their most recent picture from 2018. So they haven't made a film together for 7 years now. So that's 18 feature films from them. And I personally think their filmography, there are some magnificent achievements in there, but it's also a bit patchy.
Yeah. I've seen all those films. I think I've seen every film on that list. And I agree with you. There's a real streak there of like undeniably great films, though, I think. that ends with maybe The Man Who Wasn't There, but certainly ends with intolerable cruelty, which I don't think they wrote. I think that was sort of a spec script from someone else, but I don't know. I should look into that really quickly. But I think from like Raising Arizona all the way up until at least through Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 really fantastic films. But then I think, towards the end of their collaboration, I think it gets a little spotty. Like I did see, I thought The Lady Killers was an unnecessary remake.
Yeah. And that's Tom Hanks as well, isn't it? We've got it in for Tom Hanks this month. Yep.
Oh, well done, James. So that's our version of product placement here on the Two Real Cinema Club. And then, I think it gets a little like Burn After Reading. A Serious Man is not a terribly interesting film. True Grit is another remake. Inside Llewyn Davis is all right. Sort of like a Bob Dylan film. Now that we've got a proper Bob Dylan biopic, I think that's completely irrelevant. Hail Caesar, I thought was terrible. And then The Ballad of Buster Scruggs was made for one of the streamers, I think. I don't remember. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I felt like I saw it on... And it is pretty interesting. I think it's a pretty good film. But again, probably a little low for their standards. But I think that's it. Yeah. If you can make 10 or 12 good films out of 18, I mean, that's a pretty good...
Yeah, that's reasonably outstanding.
So I agree it's a little patchy.
I noticed you skipped over No Country for Old Men there, which I think is an outstanding mid-late period film from them. In fact,
I think it's great. The film, that one, for me, that was one of these films where, and then we just talked about this with One Battle After Another. It could have ended. There were like 4 different spots to end, and they chose the last ending. I think maybe the first option would have been the best, but it is a great film. And again, great piece of acting from Javier Bardem on that one too, that makes it happen.
Also, No Country for Old Men does a real Rafifi as well, doesn't it? Which I find tremendously admirable. I think there is like a 25-minute sequence where there is no dialogue of any kind. Yeah.
It's a very visual film. Really good job.
I deal with that immediately, elevates it, in my opinion. So I think that's a proper cinematic achievement. I mean, looking at their early films, Blood Simple is a fantastic modern noir film, I think much more highly achieved than Hard Eight, which is Paul Thomas Anderson's first film. Hard Eight is fine, but I don't think it holds a candle to Blood Simple. They kind of arrived on the scene really pretty much fully formed.
I
think Blood Simple is probably as highly accomplished as any of their films. Albeit lower budget and simpler, but tremendously well controlled. Fantastic atmosphere. Beautifully shot, great cast, great piece of work.
It's funny because Hard Eight is the one I don't think I've seen. So I think I have seen most of his films, Paul Thomas Anderson's films, but I think Hard Eight is still sort of an absence on my viewing list. So I should probably rectify that soon.
Well, maybe. I don't know if I would rush to. I think maybe go back and watch There Will Be Blood instead, I think, again.
Yeah, I think... I actually think of his record as being patchier than theirs because he's got a couple of Dynamite films and then a lot of really just, for me, like why films and just inexplicable choices. Inherent Vice, which is another Thomas Pynchon
it is, yes.
book. Couldn't get through that film. I think you directed me towards The Master, which is better. I mean,
I don't think it's a master. It's not a masterwork, no pun intended.
Yeah. And again, that does pretty well with Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Kind of make it something better than what it actually is. But and then we did There Will Be Blood on the pod last year.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. I think we compared it to Blackberry, didn't we? I think.
Was it Blackberry?
I think it was. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Is, business gone crazy.
Oh no, yeah. I think you're right. You're right. Which I loved, but in our analysis, we came to that point at the end where I thought, I had thought something different had happened with the Paul Dano character. And the conversation we had just turned me around because I think it's a super visual film. It's fantastic. Daniel Day-Lewis is dynamite in that film, literally. And then it just knowing what I knew at the end, all of a sudden, I really lost a lot of my enthusiasm for the film. But I still think it's one of his best pictures. But and then there are others in there that are complete misses for me. Licorice Beats I didn't enjoy. We've had him on the pod.
We have had him on the pod now, yes.
So he's someone we talk about with regularity. Licorice Pizza missed for me. Punch Drunk Love. I know everyone loves that film, and I'm not in that camp at all. And I have seen that one recently as well. Did we do that for the pod?
We didn't. Maybe we should. I have the script for Punch Drunk Love proudly sitting on my shelf. I'm one of the people who did really like it. I'm one of those people who...
Yeah.
There is a part of me that feels seen in Punch Drunk Love.
Okay.
But you are probably a much more well-balanced, normal adult human being, which is why it doesn't appeal to you quite so much.
That makes me laugh, being called well-balanced. But I think, the beauty of his moment right now is he's just made a fantastic film. I would think I could say, with the possible exception of Boogie Nights, which I have a certain affinity for, I think One Battle After Another is probably his finest work. So he's at a point where now the expectations are going to go up quite a bit. But both the writing in that film and the direction are fantastic. So I like where he is right now.
Yeah,
I hope he can sustain it.
I mean, you've stolen the thought out of my mind, because I was going to offer that Coen Brothers started so strong with Blood Simple. And then, and especially the second half of their career have kind of gone off the boil. Whereas, Paul Thomas Anderson has just made his finest film.
Yeah. And at a good age to do it.
And, I think it's quite an achievement. And it's not perfect. And I think, we still had things to say about it last week, which were not, utterly hagiographic. But nonetheless, I think it's a real achievement. It's a great piece of work. I agree, maybe he is just getting into the swing now. I don't know whether it will turn out that One Battle After Another will be his No Country for Old Men. Maybe that'll be his last good film. But I hope not.
I hope not, because he does things with the camera and with the actors that is just fantastic. And I think the thing that I've really come to appreciate, especially between like his finest works, like Boogie Nights and There Will Be Blood and One Battle After Another, the humor moments. He's got some fantastic one-liners, but also some great visual bits of humor. So he does funny, the kind of like funny that I really like. He doesn't do it all the time, but the current film definitely has that. And the Coens, they take that. I love their humor too. It's very dark, and they take it a little bit too far very often, or it becomes too much of a story point where it kind of interferes with their actual storytelling. But both of I guess there are three directors we're talking about, right? Maybe. All of these directors definitely can incorporate humor into even very dark scenes and moments, and I think that's a super talent. So I mean, we're talking. We've got the luxury of talking about all good filmmakers here. It's just that when they miss big time because your expectations are high. Now, you and I, the other Anderson, for the other Anderson, we have such low expectations that I think Wes Anderson, I didn't mean to bring him in, but his name is Anderson. He could make a halfway decent film right now, and we would be ecstatic because we've been so displeased with his current output or recent output. So his humor's lost because he's just got the one tone humor, and it's long gone.
Yep.
Not funny anymore. But these guys it's restrained for the most part, and it's not
always restrained, but
more restrained, I guess. Or it's less, it's more subtle, it's less intentional, I guess. I think with Wes Anderson, I think he expects me to laugh through the whole film at every line and every little kink in every character, and those days are gone. I
did do a little bit of research into the writing process for the Coen brothers versus Paul Thomas Anderson, only because I'm quite interested in how people come up with their scripts. And they do share quite a few things in common. I think they both work out of order. So I think, like in an interview, Paul Thomas Anderson says, he writes scenes without being sure where they're going to end up, and then pieces them together like pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think, the Coens have a kind of similar sort of thing that they write scenes rather than plot outlines. So, I think both of them. And, and this is, I wonder whether this is more common among writer-directors, those hyphenates, rather than people who are writers solely. This is, one of those film school precepts that keeps coming to mind, that directors think in terms of scenes and writers think in terms of stories. And both of these, the Coens and PTA, are both directors, so they're interested in coming up with scenes which they think would be fun to shoot or interesting to watch, and then once they have a number of scenes, they try and figure out a way to put them all together into an order that will work. And I wonder whether, I don't know, but I wonder whether in One Battle After Another, there were specific scenes about a chase through Backdown Cross, and there was, a specific idea about a chase over hills somewhere in the California desert. And then, you get these two sequences, and then you try and kind of figure out, well, how can I get those into the same story and build a film around them? Yeah. And watching Big Lebowski last week, you know what? I mean, you could have moved some of those scenes around and the film would still work. If he had gone to see Jackie Treehorn, the porn producer, before going to see Julia Moore, the artist, it still would have largely sort of been the same, and they could have, you could have rearranged it, and the film would still largely work. It's a little bit like when you watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And you get to the end of the movie and you realize, wait a second, One-Eyed Man, have I just watched The Odyssey? And you take all the elements of The Odyssey and you realize that you could shuffle those chapters in any order and it would still work. Odysseus, he visits a witch and he visits, an island with a cyclops, and, he visits Scylla and Charybdis or whatever, and it doesn't honestly matter which order he goes to those islands. He just has to delay going home by 10 years. Yeah. And it's kind of the same with a lot of these movies, that you need these events to happen, but the order they happen in isn't nearly as important as the sum total of the events by the time you get to the final, the final moments of the film. Yeah. Whereas I wonder whether, people who are pure writers, a little bit like you and me, think much more in terms of arc and opening and closing image, and how am I going to get from there to here, and how am I going to join all the dots before you start figuring out what the dots are.
Yeah, and timeline, for sure. Yeah. Like, does it make sense? Is it logical? Is it progression?
Which is why some of these films maybe struggle with timeline a little bit, because the scenes all appear and they're in an order, but they maybe they're playing a little bit fast and loose with how much time has passed.
I'm impressed with taking Vineland, was it, by the Thomas Pynchon, and taking that and at least getting structure out of that, I guess, but making something that's completely different from the actual book. But maybe he benefited in this project from having someone else's rough timeline or someone else's structure, and then being able to turn that into a good story. That can help. I mean, there aren't too many, I guess. I think so he's got a couple of adaptations in there. I don't think the Coen brothers have many adaptations. I don't think I'd struggle.
No, I suppose they're kind of remakes. Lady Killers is a remake, isn't it?
Lady Killers is a remake.
True Grit is a remake.
Yeah, True Grit's a remake.
But most of the best work is original material, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think if they think in scenes, then it's best that they're working with their own material as opposed to taking someone else's material and trying to scenify it, I guess. But they're both, or all three are writer-directors ultimately. Yeah. It's kind of a shame to see. I don't know what the Coen brothers' plan is right now, what's happening exactly, but to intentionally make B films is an odd choice for Ethan Coen. And then I did see Macbeth. I wasn't like that wowed by and it was also one of these like why now questions. And it probably has to do with politics and all of that, but it was well done. It was perfectly well done. It was very highly stylized. It was not a Coen Brothers film. Normally, and that's the difference between these two sets of directors, is I think when you see a Coen Brothers film, you can identify it as a Coen Brothers film very often just by the way it's shot, or the wide-angle lenses and the close-ups, and some of their transitions are very Coen-y.
Right. Yep.
Whereas Paul Thomas Anderson, I don't think he's glued to a style in the same way that they are. He makes beautiful films. He comes out of the whole video store generation, so the kids who grew up with VHS cameras and all that. So he's been practiced, and he definitely knows how to work a camera. But he's not. I don't think he's that married to anyone's style, and I think that's a good thing. I think the versatility is very good. Like the Wes Anderson. Am I talking about Wes Anderson again? Jeez. We didn't say we were going to do that, but he's in love with his style, and I think it's a burden. Yeah, it's become a real monkey on his back. Whereas the Coens it's just not that. It's identifiable, but it's not so set in stone. I guess it's not. The style doesn't affect their stories. They have very interesting stories. Where I think for Wes Anderson, he's definitely his stories are affected by his style for sure.
I'll give you one other reason, and see if you agree with me or not on this, but why I would prefer to go and see the Paul Thomas Anderson season rather than Coen Brothers, which is just, I think his films are just a bit more sincere, I think. There's a bit of kind of, proper emotional sincerity. Like I feel more emotionally engaged, I think, with his films, whereas the Coen Brothers are, tremendously witty, and there's a lot of light, frothy entertainment, but at the same time, I feel a little bit emotionally detached. I just don't quite feel that same, emotional draw. I think they just feel they're more ironic than they are genuinely emotionally intense.
Yeah.
So maybe it means they're a little bit less tiring to watch. I don't know, but I feel like the Coen Brothers move my brain more than my heart, whereas Paul Thomas Anderson does it more the other way around. I think that's what I'm going to say.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think that's good. I'm supposed to say the opposite right now.
You're going to tell me you think with your brain and you just do other things with your heart.
I'm a materialist. My brain and my heart are the same organism. They're working together. It's all moved. I don't know. I think I'm guilty of loving plotty stuff. I love things that happen, and I think the Coen brothers always have plenty of stuff happening in their films. I think that, and they managed to weave it together. Like we've talked about chaos in their films, but they managed to weave it all together so that it doesn't feel that incoherent. So I love seeing things happen on screen that I'm not going to see in real life, and I love it when it's kind of darkly humorous as well. So I think that's definitely what draws me to the Coens, and it's not necessarily, it's probably more of a brain thing than a heart thing, but it's just more their choices of making the ridiculous entertaining, dark, and funny. And
at the end of the day, we are all ridiculous. I cannot argue with that.
The divine comedy. We've mentioned this. I mean, boy, when the AI starts looking for things to pull out of this podcast, these guys are talking about Homer. They're talking about Dante. They're smart.
I think, they're going to think one of us is smart. And the other one is this guy. Okay, well, you've convinced me then. I'm going to divide these tickets into two. I will go and see Paul Thomas Anderson, and here is your ticket to go and see a season of Wes Anderson films, and I hope you enjoy them.
Oh, I deserve that. Because I spoiled this popcorn counter by bringing in the wrong Anderson. I thought we were talking about Wes.
You get what you deserve. At least you get free popcorn.
That's one of the inner ring